Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to say that we finally have family law attorney Sarah Carmody, principal partner of Sarah Carmody Law Firm LLC, all the way from Olathe in sunny Kansas. Now, Sarah, who is considered to be an authority in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. Now, you see, Sarah's come here today to share some insights on how to manage expectations during the divorce process. So, if you are one of the increasing amounts of people in the Olathe, Kansas area who can relate to today's topic, you might just want to give yourself a break. Come on, log out of Facebook, switch Twitter off. Even if you're out there Instagramming, come on, you can do that later. You may even want to pick up a notepad and pen and get ready to take some notes while you're drinking your favorite drink, as Sarah shares with us some great insights today. So with that said, let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. We are happy to have you on the show. We know how busy you are. So let's just jump feet first in with our first question of the day. So Sarah, in your own words, can you just briefly describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Sure. I typically serve middle-class families, people who are either looking for information about divorce or who are ready to proceed. Most of my clients have a fair amount of assets, debts, and at least one child who we need to figure out how to get them through the divorce process as well.
Okay, Sarah, now that we have a picture of who you help, the people who you work with on a day-to-day basis, it goes without saying that anything you share with us from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Can we both agree on that, Sarah?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so while you're out there working with the people who you just described, what's the most common misconception you come across while you're out there working on a day-to-day basis?
The most common misconception in my practice is how long the divorce process is actually going to take. People come in with really two different beliefs, either that it's going to be simple, quick, and easy, or this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. And I would say that both of those are pretty large misconceptions. So if we start with the first group of people who think this is just going to be quick and easy, divorce is an emotional process, and that emotional draining will affect you throughout the timeline, from the very beginning to the very end. Mm-hmm. So even if you come in with everything in order, this process is still going to take a few months. And that's based on, number one, the timeline that your jurisdiction sets for you. And then number two, you can't control the other party of the divorce. So you might be ready to go, but they might not be. So that's one thing to think about.
Right.
And the other thing is people who are coming for just the knockdown, drag-out fight, they have to know that in family law, it's not punitive. We're not here to punish someone for what they did. We're here to divide the assets, divide the debts on a fairly equal basis, and then determine what happens with the children, who should have the residential parent designation, and what parenting time everyone should have. but it's not punitive in any way. So that's something that people really need to remember, that you might be angry, but the process is going to be a lot smoother if you come in with a little less anger.
Okay then, Sarah. So based on what you just shared with us, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, please share an example of how you've helped somebody, or how you would even go about helping somebody who comes to you with that challenge, with that misconceptions that you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain or would be able to gain for them.
I think the most common client is someone who comes in a bit upset and ready to go to the judge for everything.
Right.
So what I try to do is tell everyone from the beginning that judges, especially where I practice, don't have a large role in a family law case unless you make them have one. The best way to get through any divorce is through settlement. And I tell every single client 90% of family law cases are going to settle. And that is because you and your family are the best people to decide what happens to you and your family. You go in front of a judge and it's all up in the air. No one knows what's going to happen. And a person is going to make decisions for the rest of your life that you have no control over anymore. So I talk a lot to clients about, let's take back the control. Let's figure out what is best for you and your family. And I have them write down the top 3 things that are most important. What are your 3 goals to get out of this divorce process? And then we look back at those goals as the divorce process goes on to see, should we change them? Are we meeting them? And what the progress of the case is. This has happened multiple times in my years of practice, where someone will come in very upset and I'm able to tamp down that anger, walk them through the process in the initial consultation, and then continue to educate them as the process moves along. So we don't have somebody who just wants to get to trial, wants to air their dirty laundry, and will end up happier in the long run rather than having some short-term win in their mind.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Sarah. That's a very detailed insight that I'm sure the listeners are going to find very useful. Now, as a reminder, we are speaking about how to manage expectations during the divorce process. Now, with that in mind, Sarah, and for those people who are listening in right now, what's the most common but unknown pitfall they need to be aware of no matter what situation they find themselves in?
I think the most common pitfall is choosing the wrong attorney at the beginning.
Right.
What you need to do is interview an attorney just as you would interview a doctor. You don't like your doctor, you change. You don't like your attorney, you can change your attorney. And a lot of people don't know that. My advice is to find the best person for you at the beginning. And the best person for your friend down the road might not be the best person for you. So interview that attorney, ask them the questions you want to ask, and be wary of any attorney who says, I'm going to get you everything you've asked for. Because divorce is ultimately about compromise. And if an attorney is not willing to be upfront and honest with you at the very beginning, they're probably not going to be upfront and honest with you as the process goes on. So that very first decision that you make, who is going to represent you, is the most important.
So, Sarah, let me ask you this. I'm quite curious now because you shared some great information with us so far. How many years have you been practicing family law?
I've been practicing 9 years.
9 years. So in those 9 years of being a family law attorney, what's the most important thing to you about helping your clients to achieve their desired outcomes?
I want all my clients to feel as though they are leaving this process better off than how they came in. Mm. And to me, it's not my goals that are important. It's the client's goals that are important. I know what judges and around here will order, but it's more important to me to tell my clients those things and let them determine from my experience and knowledge what they would like to get out of this process, rather than myself imposing any kind of belief or thought process on them.
So imagine it's any day of the week then, Sarah, and your alarm clock goes off. It's 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, and you wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go for another day. I know that's how you wake up, Sarah, right? You are bright-eyed.
Most definitely, yes.
So with a day like that ahead, Sarah, helping your clients, even after 9 years, how does Sarah Carmody feel on a day like that?
The nice thing about family law is that every day is a bit different because everybody's case is different. People get divorced every day and they talk to their friends about it, and that's another pitfall here, is that when you speak with your friends, know that your divorce is going to be different. And so what I like about it is the situation might ultimately end up the same, but getting there is always a different path. And that's interesting to me. It's not the same day to day, in and out. It's always a different day.
So while we're speaking about you then, Sarah, can you just briefly spend a few moments just talking a little bit about yourself, and especially in terms of your background and your formal education, as well as your experience as it relates to the topic of family law?
Sure. I graduated from the University of Missouri, Kansas City in 2008 and have been in family law practice since. It's the only area of law I've ever practiced. I have worked with business partners before, and I'm currently a solo practitioner. I really like family law. It's an area that some people stay away from forever, and it's an area that I just dove right into. It's close to my heart. My parents were divorced several times, and I come at it from a child-centered focus. How is this divorce going to affect your children? And I tell every single person that walks through my door that divorce is not going to hurt your children. It is how the parents handle it that will harm their children in the long run. And that is very important to me. So I try to practice every day with how can I help the people who need help in the best way possible so they can move forward with their family unit intact and with the least disruption as possible.
You know something, Sarah, I'm so glad that you raised the point about the children, because it's the actual reason, or the fundamental reason, why I started this series called Let's Talk Divorce. Because as you have touched on yourself, the children, they are the most vulnerable people in a divorce process. They are the hidden victims. They are the ones who don't have a voice. Now, myself being a child of divorce and experiencing a very volatile, very violent, with lots of anger and blood and fighting and shouting, I experienced that as a young child, and I carried that throughout my adulthood, the guilt of that, because I actually felt it was my fault, because I didn't understand. I was only 8, 9 years old at the time. So it's taken me a long time to deal with that, and it still rears its ugly head today, and I'm 55 years old as we speak today. So my idea was, let's start this, let's turn my own situation, my negative situation, into a positive by starting this series, Let's Talk Divorce, and bringing on professionals like yourself who, through your expertise, through your experience, can share your insights, your advice, so that in the hope a divorcing couple out there who may be at loggerheads, they may be at each other's throats, they may not be able to see a way to be amicable so that the children are not impacted in a negative way, just in the hope that they may see things differently through listening to professionals like yourself. So I'm so happy that you brought up that point, because if they're, as the listener, I'm speaking to you right now directly. You've heard Sarah touch on it yourself, just how important it is to think about the children. And I can say from my own perspective, as a former child of divorce, it really does have an impact. And everything which you believe the children not to be seeing, not to be picking up, they pick up on every single nuance and internalize that and carry that with them for a very long time to come. So I hope through my little story and what Sarah just shared with you that it motivates you to at least sit down, think about your situation, and love the children more than you hate yourselves. So with that, I'm just so glad you brought that up. So thank you for that, Sarah. I just want to say that before we moved on to our next question.
Thank you for sharing your story. That's great that you have brought your story into helping other people. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you as well for all you do. You're one of the dozens, scores of professionals, divorce professionals that I've spoken to, and you're all doing an amazing job out there. So I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy day to come and share your insights and to help people who, they had no intention of getting divorced when they got married, but find themselves in that unfortunate position. So hopefully between you and I, we can inspire them to make the best out of, a negative situation and to see it in a positive sense. It's a new start. It's a new beginning, and just to get through it in the best way possible for all parties involved. So with that said, I kind of went a little bit off track there, but I thought it was just important to bring that up, Sarah. Can you just for a moment then, Sarah, just picture the kinds of people who we've been speaking to today, those divorcing couples, those people out there who are wanting to know more about their options for divorce. If you picture those and keep that picture in mind, what final thoughts would you like to leave them with before we move on to our last question for today?
Well, I have two thoughts here that kind of tie into what we were talking about. And the first one is, when you think about the parenting plan that you would like, change it up and put yourself in the other party's role, and would that be acceptable for you? And if it wouldn't, think about why it's acceptable for you to put forth this parenting plan. Because the children shouldn't be used to attack your spouse. So think about how you want to set up your children's future and look past just where we are today, but moving forward, if this would be acceptable for you to have a limited contact with your own children. So I do encourage all my clients to do that. And the second thing I encourage all my clients to do for them and their children is to find a good therapist. Find someone who is willing to sit down and speak with you and your children, or a separate person for your children, because you are going to experience emotions that you've never experienced before, and you might not have the tools to deal with them yet. And although I've been doing this a long time, most attorneys who practice family law have been doing this a long time, we're not equipped to help with the emotional side of it, as well as a therapist who's studied in this area for much longer. So I do encourage people to just get in touch, maybe have a few sessions, and make sure you're taking care of yourself.
So if somebody is in need of a therapist, is that something that you could help them with? Could you point them in the right direction? Does your company have a 360-degree approach to helping your clients?
Oh, most definitely. I help people find therapists, financial planners, anything they need from my practice area who I've run into. I have a long list of referrals for people.
Fantastic. So, Sarah, if there is somebody who's out there and have been listening to the show right now and they feel they want to know more about how to manage expectations during the divorce process, what's the easiest way for them to connect with you?
The easiest way is to go onto my website, which is sarahcarmodylaw.com. You can read all about my background there and send me an email from the website. We do get back to people very quickly and can set up appointments hopefully within the week or next week for everybody.
Okay, folks, that's all we have time for today. The time has just flown by, and I just feel that Sarah has really only began to scratch the surface of the insights that she could have shared with us today. However, we are limited by time. So again, as a reminder, we have been listening to family law attorney Sarah Carmody. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Sarah. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative conversation with one of the top family law attorneys in the Olathe, Kansas area today. Again, her name was Sarah Carmody. Don't forget her name. Make sure you do check her out. Give her a call. Drop by her website. Whatever you do, I am sure that you're going to be in good hands. So that's it, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.